This is going to be a juicy one. We're going to talk about the definition of what hard work is today and what it was like for me growing up and how I've adjusted to what hard work really means. And then Leah's going to make me cry, and we're going to talk about what legacy means and how important this valley is to me.
How do you define hard work?
I think hard work is such an interesting term, honestly. I think hard work has always been this concept of long days and multiple hours, and it's anything outside of a traditional 40-hour work week. I think that's always been the definition of hard work. And I certainly leaned into that for so many years, just feeling that my value was because I was a hard worker. I'd put in the long days and get a lot accomplished. And I think as I've gotten older, what I'm really beginning to feel now is it's more about being higher quality work in a shorter amount of time. And I've talked about it before, but I really like the idea of this compressed schedule idea because it allows me then to really be so focused on what I'm going to accomplish. And it's helping me redefine what hard work is. I'd be curious what other people think hard work is in today's society. I think it's definitely different. But in my generation, hard work definitely meant long days, long weeks, lots of sacrifice. And I'll tell you, I don't want to do that anymore. That's for sure.
Do you believe in a work-life balance?
I think the work-life balance is a myth. It's such an exhausting cliche today. It's not possible. How can you possibly balance your life and your work when they both demand so much of your time? So the sooner all of us can get over this concept that there's a balance between the two, I think we'd all be a whole lot happier, to be perfectly honest. And I really think the idea is, I'm a sprint run. So I like the idea of sprinting hard at work, sprint rest. So really just go really hard and then rest. But it took me a long time to get to that point, over 30 years, before I really was like, this is not suiting me to just go all the time, because I wasn't good for anybody. I wasn't good for my kids or my work or my clients, my community. But as soon as I was able to focus much more on creating a period of time where I'm working very intently and then being very focused on rest, then I became so much more effective for everyone. So this idea of balance is a whole bunch of BS, and I think we should get over it as fast as possible.
So would you say that you work hard and party hard?
I still work hard, and I probably honestly still probably work too much, but I love work. So with that comes a lot of joy. I'm not a big partier, but I do like to play. And I like to be outside. So if my working hard allows me to go and do those things, I'm all about it, 100%.
What do you think working hard means in today's culture?
What an interesting question. I think my perspective would be watching my two girls right now. They're both, I would define them as hard workers. They're putting in the hours, they're doing the extra, they pay attention to the detail, and it's so important to them to do a good job. But I also see that they like to play, and they want to have time for friends and rest and time for themselves. So I love that they have found a way to navigate that, or at least I think they're giving it a good try, trying to figure that out. I'd be really curious to hear what other people would describe. I think COVID was certainly a tipping point for so many of us that allowed us to reevaluate what hard work really means for each of us, because now I'm certainly much more efficient at home working from my desk, and I think so many people who do work from home are able to accomplish an insane amount of work without having to work a 40-hour work week. So I think we're beginning to see a significant shift. It's so amazing to me, honestly, how much COVID has changed so many aspects, if not every aspect of our lives, and especially when it comes to work and how we view work and the value of getting things done efficiently and quickly versus having to spend an entire day to fill up the time that is traditionally required.
When was a time that you said yes to something that you needed to say no to?
I have said yes to way too many things. I have said yes to boards that I had no interest in. I have said yes to helping people out. I have said yes to volunteering way too much. And each time I did it, just feeling an obligation to do it, I'll tell you, it just didn't serve me. It didn't serve me or my family. Instead, it made me really stressed out. So what I've learned I'll tell you a story. I have two friends that do this very same thing. And one of the things that happens when you step out into this community and you start giving your time and people notice you, they see that you have a passion for something, they want to pull you in 100 different directions and want you to participate in their thing, their event, their passion. And because you love them, you want to do this. So me and my two pals, I was on 4 boards. I had 2 girls in high school and running 3 businesses. Like, what the hell? And my friends were very similar. So we made a pact. So here's my piece of advice. We made a pact. No more boards, no more volunteering for 2 years. And we just shut it down. And we fulfilled the obligations that we had, and then we learned to say no. And I will tell you, as I started saying no more often, that muscle was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now I am so protective of my time. And I love it because it has been incredibly rewarding to me, because the time I do give to the organizations that I care so deeply about, I do it at a much, much higher level and better focus than I ever did before volunteering and saying yes to everything.
So if working hard isn't the answer to being successful, what is?
Ooh. That's another compelling question. Way to go, Leah. Oh, God, I don't know how to answer that. I think that we equate working hard with making lots of money, or working hard equates to self-worth. And so I think taking the time to define what the end goal is and then working back will make it more clear about what is the value that I bring in the work that I do. Because to your point, as we build our skills, and I was using an example of myself, 24 years in the business, and an agent who is brand new, and we are making the same amount of money. The commission dollar is the same. Yet I think anyone would agree somebody with 24 years of experience has more value than somebody who is newly licensed with 30 days experience. Yet there's no differentiation in how we get paid, but the level of service and everything else is different. So it's interesting how hard work and this idea of compensation for that work is not always equally translated into the value of the work that you do and how we're paid. So it's kind of a conundrum, especially in the sales world. I could see that. Even in a corporate environment where so many people are making the same amount of money, but only a handful are really kicking ass and excelling. So it could be easy to be distracted, I think, by comparison, comparing yourself to the person. Why am I busting my hump when they're making the same amount of money as me? Again, another reason to be an entrepreneur. So I think it's an interesting thing. I like that, the conversation around what hard work is in 2023. How do we define that moving forward? And how do we value the work that people do now? Because they're able to do incredible work in a shorter amount of time than they ever were before, because of the efficiencies of technology, systems, social media, all this kind of stuff that has really changed the way we work. Did I answer the question?
I think so.
Yeah.
But adding on to that, I think a lot of people also define hard work by hours worked, right? So, there is that shift in value system between actual hours worked versus productivity in those hours. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting watching today's generation. I know I kind of hone in on that a lot, but today's generation, I think they're more focused on delivering quality work in a shorter amount of time. And I feel like I'm of a generation where I found the value of myself in working instead of a 40-hour, it'd be 50, 60-hour weeks, weekends, long nights, early mornings. And I felt valuable because I was working hard because I put in a lot of hours. And that did not serve me at all. It really didn't. The sacrifices were cuckoo crazy. And I just didn't have the insight to look back at that. I just had a role model of parents that worked really hard. And when they weren't working hard in their business, they were working hard on our family's property or that sort of thing. And then the playtime was, very scheduled out, but only a few times a year. So I think really changing the way we look at the value of our time and what a work week really needs to look like. Because at the end of the day, I would think all that really matters is, did I do good work and did I deliver? That's what matters. And maybe I can do that in 20 hours instead of 60. It seemed like that would be the goal. I love being able to say I've been in this business for 24 years. I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would fall into sort of this corporate longevity in an industry. I kind of bopped around before trying to find different things that interested me. So it's funny to be 24 years in this business, and there's not too many of us around that have been through so many highs and lows together. So I love being able to lean into my experience, and it's so much about why I wanted to have these conversations, is to share this with other people that there's a path ahead of you, and those of us that are kind of on the other side now, lean into us. We've got some stories to share with you, some insights, some lessons, and I'd love to be able to share that with you. Not that you won't make the same mistakes, because I promise you will. And but maybe when it does happen, you'll be like, I remember hearing about that, and that's what this is. And I'm going to get through it, because when you're in it, it's so hard to imagine getting to the other side.
You'd mentioned the podcast that you listened to with Sherry Riley. And you mentioned 100% of energy for 10% of personal fulfillment. You really liked that quote.
Yeah, Sherry was on Marie Forleo's podcast, and I really like this. It all just ties back into this idea that we put in 100% effort. We work hard. We're putting in these long days. But at the end of it, as individuals, we're left with 10% of fulfillment, personal fulfillment. So what are we doing it for? It's like working for somebody else. I definitely was watching them. We were just joking around about it. They take us all out for dinner, and they're ordering a $300 bottle of wine. I'm like, I can use the $300. This is kind of crazy, or you're on their fancy boats or whatever. You're just like, why am I doing all of this for someone else? So I think it was a reminder of my time is really valuable, and I want more fulfillment than to clock in and clock out to provide all of this success and wealth for somebody else. So I really like that quote. It really hit a nerve with me. And I think the goal then is to shift to move from 100% of this work to more than 10% of fulfillment. Wouldn't it be amazing if it was even north of 50%? What if it was 60% fulfillment? That would just be amazing.
What are your thoughts on your work is not your worth?
You hit me with some heavy questions there, Missy. I think I defined so much of my worth by my work ethic for so long. It's how I found value in myself. So I wore it like a cape and a badge of honor, because I was always determined to outwork anyone. And when I got into this business, by God, they were 10, 12-hour days. I was going to do whatever it took to be successful. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a scorched earth that is left behind with that sort of approach. I didn't know any different. that is what I held as a value, that working hard and putting in long days and sacrificing meant that I was a good person. I had value. My parents would feel proud of me. That was very, very important to me. And the older I get, the less important all of that is. And it's really become more about what do I want out of this one great journey, and how am I going to leave a legacy that is more positive and supportive of others, so that we can move away from these old norms of what hard work looks like and what does success really look like for each of us individually, really.
One last question.
Ready?
What does your legacy look like?
Oh my gosh.
Get deep, Marie.
Get deep.
Is it your girls or is it your business? What is it?
It is most definitely my girls, and it is this community. I have the privilege of being Roger and Eva Lucart's daughter. I'm going to get so choked up. And that is a huge responsibility. And it is because my family has done so much for this community, and they believe so strongly in giving back to community that I feel a huge responsibility to that. And watching how my dad led, it was so profound. Oh, you're such a shit. Here's the thing. When my dad passed, the amount of people that came to me and wrote me and called me and said, "You don't know who I am, but your dad did this for me." It blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. I had no idea. I just know what his effect was on me and my family. And to see other people share their story, that is legacy. That is impact. I could only dream of having people say those sort of things to my girls. That would be incredible. It would be absolutely incredible. So legacy for me is these two bright, beautiful women and the families that they're going to raise and what their lives are going to be like. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what that's going to be like. And then, of course, I'm all about Yakima and carrying on the legacy of the Palm Springs of Washington and getting that message out and sharing what a beautiful and incredible place it is to live here. And this whole Living in Yakima series, I want to change the narrative. I want this to be a positive. I love living here. It is so beautiful. And the people are incredible. So those are my two big missions. I would be very curious to know what hard work means for you and what that looks like for you in your journey as an entrepreneur and a badass businesswoman. So be sure to leave some comments below, like and subscribe. I'm excited to continue to bring you more hard conversations about what it's like to be a woman in business.